Candles and all of these things. I actually got real candles this week. I was able to find some purple and pink ones. I had the battery-powered ones before. But so we went through the first Sunday of Advent was hope. The second Sunday of Advent was faith. The pink candle represents rejoicing. And the final candle, the final purple candle this morning is the angel's candle, or it is the candle of peace. And as we go through these 4 weeks, it's actually meant as a time to set aside to remember the waiting of the Jewish people as they was waiting for that coming Messiah. There was promise that there was a Messiah that was going to come, and yet they waited and they waited and they waited. And the very first promise of this Messiah was found back in the book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 15, where the promise was given to Satan that you will strike the heel, but he will strike your head. And that was the gospel message told years, thousands of years before the Messiah actually came. And so over the next several thousand years, the Jewish people are looking forward to the coming of the Messiah. And that's what this represents, is us just remembering the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas of the wait of the Jewish people waiting on the Messiah that was to come. This morning we're going to talk of the author of peace, or the Prince of Peace. And Isaiah chapter 9 is our reading this morning. We're going to get there in a little while. If you would like to look back there in Isaiah 9, you can stick your finger in there. But probably many of you that are here this morning remember the country singer Travis Tritt. Is it ringing a bell with some of you? He was kind of hitting his peak back when I was younger, and it's not really said much about it anymore unless you listen to the old country like I do. But Travis Tritt, like any other famous star, had to start somewhere. And Travis Tritt used many, many years of going to out-of-the-way bars and taverns and places to play his music. And he said that they often would get dangerous, get rowdy. They were very dangerous places, and sometimes bar fights would break out, and he was in danger of his own life, of losing his own life in this big fight, and he just really sometimes get pretty nervous. And so they asked him how he would answer, or how he would handle the rowdy crowds that was happened in these different bars. And he said this: just when a bar fight began to break out and get out of hand, just when bikers began to reach for pole cues and rednecks headed to their truck for the gun rack, I would start playing Silent Night. It could be in the middle of July. I didn't care. Sometimes the rowdy barmen would start to cry as they watched me standing there sweating in the middle of July playing Christmas carols. The singing of a few Christmas carols brought peace to a bunch of drunken men in a tavern. And you know what? The original Christmas carol was sung by a group of angels, and that was exactly what was said to the shepherds on the hillside. Peace was being brought to mankind. Peace has always been associated with Christmas, such as was the case in the eve and Christmas Day of 1914, when the German troops and the Allied troops participated in a Christmas truce in the middle of World War I. Now, there are various versions of this, and some of them are very sketchy, but there's some main themes that seem to run through all of the accounts, and that was that peace was had on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Albeit short-lived, there was an exchange of gifts. There was time spent together singing Christmas carols. Some accounts even say that there was a soccer game that was played that day. Peace has always been the longing of human hearts. We can look at times of war and Christmas songs that were written during those times. You possibly know I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. That was a song that was written by William Wadsworth Longfellow in the days of the Civil War. Do You Hear What I Hear was written during the Cuban Missile Crisis. We as humans long for peace. Peace from our past, peace in the present, peace of the future, peace with others, and ultimately, peace with God. Isaiah prophesied the Messiah would be the Prince of that peace. The angels sang of peace. Jesus declared that he himself was that peace that was to come. Jesus offered the greeting of peace to one that was called, historians have called Doubting Thomas. Paul counseled to let peace of God rule in our hearts. And best of all, Jesus wants to bring that peace into our lives. Luke chapter 2 and verse 14 tells us that the angels sang the carol nearly 2,000 years ago, and that carol declared, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace." Peace to who? Peace to men. That was the promise of the very first carol that was ever sang by the angels was peace that was to be brought to men. And without God's presence, the world would be a very violent place to live. It's interesting as you look at the birth of Jesus Christ, is about 27 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. Rome had experienced something that was very unique and that historians call Pax Romana. It was the peace of Rome. Rome was at peace, beginning with the reign of Augustine, the emperor of Rome, and lasting to about 180 AD. There was a period of about 200 years there that Rome was at peace. They had very few internal conflicts. They very rarely went to war. Their Pax Romana offered something that the world hadn't known for centuries. It was a nation that was at peace. But the peace was only if you were Roman. And if you weren't Roman, you could have peace with Rome, but it was enforced by the end of a sword or a spear. And even the Romans said that the Pax Romana was a time of violence and uncertainty. And during the Pax Romana was when most of the emperors of Rome died by assassination. One of their emperors, who probably many of you will know, Caligula, was an insane, cruel tyrant who engaged in various drunken parties and orgies. There was Nero, who some believe burned Rome to the ground and then blamed the Christians so that he could throw the Christians into the Colosseum. There was Titus, who was a famous general who let his army loose on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and in 70 AD killed the inhabitants of Jerusalem and torched and tore down the whole city, including the temple in 70 AD. It seemed like it was a time of peace. These 200 years was a time of peace. But it was actually a great time of violence in Rome. There was peace from war, but there was no real peace within the hearts of the Roman people. So it was into that time that the angels cried out on the hillsides to the shepherds that were sitting there, "Peace to men." True and lasting peace is going to be brought into this world. At the height of the Rome's Pax Romana, the angels of God declared something that was totally different from the peace that Rome could give. They declared that there was a newborn baby that was born in a manger that was wrapped in strips of clothes, who would be and is the peace, or the Prince of Peace for all mankind. During his earthly ministry, Jesus told his followers he had come to offer them that peace. He'd come to give them peace. We can find in John chapter 14 and verse 27, Jesus said this, "I'm leaving you now, but I'm leaving you with a gift. I'm leaving you with a gift, and this is peace of mind and peace of heart. And the peace that I give you is a gift that the world cannot give. So don't be troubled and don't be afraid." Jesus said he had come to give peace that the world could never offer. So it really is worth asking this morning, is there a peace that the world can offer? We would have to look at the world and we would have to say, what can they offer me? What peace can they give me? And here's some prominent gifts that possibly some of us even here this morning are still trying to seek after, thinking they will bring us peace. The world offers peace, obviously, in a bottle. The world obviously offers peace in drugs, and peace in a syringe, and peace in a pill, and peace in entertainment. Some find peace in work. Some find their peace in doing social good. Some find their peace in retail therapy. And probably this morning, this list can go on and on and on in your mind of ways that the world offers us peace. But we all know that after the high is gone, people's hearts are still troubled. They're still afraid. They're still in need of true lasting peace. So instead of seeking the Prince of Peace, they go back to the world for another gift of peace. In order to get lasting peace in my life, First of all, I have to face up to the cause of my pain. In Isaiah 53:5, it says this, that Jesus came for a purpose. Aren't you glad this morning Jesus came on purpose? He didn't just come, but he came on purpose. Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 5 says, he was pierced for our rebellion. He was crushed for my sins. He was beaten so that I could be whole. He was whipped so that I could be healed. So what is the root cause of pain in my life? The root cause of pain in my life looks me in the mirror every morning. It's me. I'm the root cause of pain. I'm the root cause of the pain that I have in my life, because the pain that I have in my own life is my own sins. Why do I not have peace? Because of my own sins, because of my own transgressions, because of my own iniquities.